Oh yeah, so this was back last summer, I guess, when I was training for, well, I wanted to do a half marathon. This was going to be one of my longer runs of, and I was timing myself for one of the first times ever. It was very much planned out, and like I didn't want to like stop running or mess up or anything like that, because it would mess up my time and I wouldn't be able to judge how much I could actually run without keeling over.
Right. I will say that while my catcalling levels do tend to go down in the winter, I don't think that it's because of what I'm wearing. I do think it's because people are too miserable.
That's seasonal depression.
It's seasonal depression. They're too miserable to bother making someone else's day worse. It's like, not today. It's just too cold and the wind is too angry.
And this was on one of the hottest days of the summer. I decided to wear just like short shorts and a sport bra. I always liked running near the canal, especially on particularly hot days. And then I happened to pass these two men, and they were in a canoe going for a ride out on the canal, which I thought was kind of a nice way to spend their afternoon. And I had my headphones in, listening to music as I normally do, and I heard them call to me to try to get my attention, and I thought they might be calling like they needed help or something like this. I'd heard that they were just saying like rude things to me, just think they're trying to be flattering or something like this, but of course it's not really flattering, it's just like objectifying. Once I took my headphone out for just like a second, and then I put it back in and sort of upped my running speed and ran away from them. And I got to the end of my run, so I decided to turn around and head home. I realized I was going to pass them again, and I was like, oh, whatever, it doesn't really matter. I mean, they were gross to me, but what am I going to do about it? I'll just like keep my headphones in and ignore them, keep my head down, which usually that's my strategy. They started up their catcalling, they're yelling again. I was watching them out of the corner of my eye, my peripheral vision. They'd probably incensed by the fact that I didn't acknowledge them the first time around. Because the first time they were saying like, nice ass, like, oh, do you want to come take a ride with us, like stuff like this. But then as I was running back, I'm pretty sure they were saying like, why won't you talk to us, like come on, just give us a smile, like the sort of cajoling version of it. And then when they realized I really wasn't going to talk to them and I was like almost past them, one of them was like, maybe she just needs to cool off, and then took his paddle and like splashed me with water, and the other guy thought this was hilarious, so then he did it too.
I think it lends them a sort of power that they didn't have before. Like if someone's feeling, okay, so for example, when I feel out of control with my life, like when things in my life feel like they're spiraling or they're like sort of catastrophes are happening all over the place, everything's chaotic, I turn to like baking. I bake cookies or a cake or muffins because it's something that's very controllable. Like if you follow these step-by-step instructions, you're gonna end up with a cake. Like if you grate carrots and add baking soda, whatever, you're gonna end up with a carrot cake. But I think when things are, I mean, people respond to chaos and feeling like they're not in control in very different ways. And I think one of the ways to respond to that is to try to control other people or try to exert power over other people. And I think that the way some people do that is through street harassment. Because you very much are saying, hey, you can't go about your life in this space. This is my space, and I want to control how you interact with it, how you behave within it. And I want to control how our interaction happens, right? And how you're feeling or whatever. Although often I don't think they're thinking about how you're feeling.
And I was holding my cell phone, and my cell phone got so wet, and my clothing got wet, and my hair got wet, and I sort of like screamed. That made them like just like laugh harder because they got a reaction, which is what they originally wanted in the first place. They didn't want to like admit defeat, kind of. And I yelled fuck off at them, which I don't normally swear. A little bit shocking to myself. Like that was that wasn't a decision I made. It was almost like a reaction, because it felt so like humiliating and so invasive. So I started crying because of the stupid game of theirs. And then on top of all of this, a group of boys, they saw what was happening. They saw what had happened, and they had like stopped to watch how it would all play out. And they were clapping and laughing, and a couple of them shouted stuff like, "Ooh, you're gonna have to work harder than that," or like, "Why don't you try it again," or stuff like this. I like smiling at to strangers. If they smile at me, like I like feeling like I'm a friendly person. That was too much for me, and I was like I started like sobbing, but who knows if they freaking care. I've been catcalled a lot in my life. That was a particularly rough incident. It happened. It was real. Yeah.
I always feel very watched in public spaces. I don't know if you get that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we definitely,
I mean, everyone is, but people always say to you, and I think this is very true, like, people are so much the author and the protagonist of their own stories. So they're not thinking about you, right? And I do think that's very true to an extent, but I also think that if you're doing something like running and you're kind of drawing attention to yourself in a public space, or if you're a woman, I do think you naturally draw attention to yourself in the public space. Like, I do think that's real. I think it's pretty provable that I'm not imagining it, you know? You get that sort of, that runner's camaraderie that, you know, you get with people. So you get to like nod and say, like, I acknowledge you as a runner who's trying to improve their time or whatever as you pass people. And I like that sort of familiarity that you have. So I have run here since, many times.
so it hasn't really like it affected you, but it's not like you have made any large changes because of that one time, right?
No, I mean, I'm a pretty controlled person in general, as you are well aware, but I try to control myself more in those kinds of interactions, because I really didn't like how I sort of freaked out and shouted at them. Like, even though it felt like the right thing to do in the instance that it happened, because I was angry and because I felt that they needed to know that they'd done something wrong and they hurt me. Afterwards I felt really much worse about it and gross about it, because I felt like they'd won, sort of.
Because of your reaction?
Because of my reaction. Like, because by drawing a reaction out of me, they like got what they wanted. And I don't know if that's true. I mean, it's impossible to know because I didn't ask them.
Yeah.
But that's what I felt like. So even right after it happened, after I ran away, I was like, I wish I hadn't done that.
Have you guys had experiences where it started off as catcalling and then turned into like a stalking or like physical
The
grabbing?
guy who lived a couple blocks up from me, he just yells at me from across the street, "Hey, you, come here!"
Like, yeah, sometimes you can get followed.
If he approaches me, I have somebody on the phone, it'll be fine.
A lot more issues with catcalling. I'm gonna say like a year to 2 years ago, and then I just kind of stopped being friendly in the public sphere. Like, I try not to smile as much. I go to my way to not make eye contact with people. And it was like a weird thing to start doing, but as soon as I did it, the catcalling decreased like exponentially.
If you have objectified me enough to yell harassing things or say super graphic things to me, what's going to stop you from doing other things?
Like, usually when catcalling happens, it's in a public space,
Yeah.
where it's suddenly like, because I'm inhabiting a public space, I'm now your public property for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the end point of a catcall is. Like, it's not a conversation, so.
It was really like disturbing to me that this stranger would feel like he could say that about me when I was walking.
I don't want to have to change my demeanor or outfits, but I also don't want to be attacked.